everybody. Yes, it is a beautiful Sunday out there. This is Law 2020, brought to you by your friends at the offices of the BCN Law Firm. Know your attorneys, know your options. That's right. 855-LAW-2020, 855-LAW-2020. And the word law will translate to 529. That's 529. So to make it easy, 855-529-2020. The BCN Law Firm stands for Boyette, Cummins, and Nalos, and we do have Wade Boyette with us today, and that always makes for a great show. Any legal questions that you've got, you don't have to use your real name. You can call us at 855-297-9696. Any field of law will do, 855-297-9696, or text us at 21232. 21232. And one of the lively discussions that Wade and I have on a bunch of our radio shows is the fact that there are companies now, and I got to talk to one of those just Friday, and these people are buying old debts. I'm talking about, in this case, it's 20 years old, written off, settled, and this company calls me and threatens to get me fired from my job, disgrace me publicly, and put an ad in the newspaper if I don't pay this off. It was a settlement I reached several years ago, Wade, with GM over a lemon law car. And we made the settlement. Everything's fine. I'm good with GM. They're good with me, even though I drive Lincolns now. But anyway, these people called me and hassled me every hour. That phone rang. And finally, I said, all right, the next call you're going to get is from Wade Boyette, my attorney.
I was going to say, it sounds like you need a good attorney to step in and get that to stop.
Wow, but it's happening all the time now to people.
It does happen. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, people don't respond. People will get that letter and do exactly what you said. I paid this off. I settled it, years ago. And then the next thing you know, they'll even get a lawsuit from the, credit from the collection company. They won't defend it because they don't think they have to because they've settled it. And next thing you know, there's a judgment against them. I've seen some crazy things. Don't ignore those letters. They are real. The collection companies are real. They don't, in a lot of cases, have no leg to stand on. Statute of limitations is expired. We can get you out of that, but you definitely have to address it as something that is a situation that you have to pay attention to.
And you were saying on a previous show that sometimes people get so frustrated with it, they'll say, all right, I'll pay you $10 a week. Well, they just started the clock over again, didn't they?
Oh, what happens is the statute of limitations run, the debt's not valid, and usually there's many ways of refuting the debt. All they want you to do is open up your pocketbook. Because, they buy these debts sometimes very pennies on the dollar. Any money they get from you usually is profit in their pocket. So, if you have that situation, it's an old debt, some credit card has now been sold to a collection company, or an old car loan's been sold to a collection company, give us a call if you can't handle it yourself. We'll be glad to see if we can't. One, we want to make sure it's off your credit report. If it hits your credit report, it's hurting you. And we should be able to help you get that off your credit report. And the one thing we don't want is you ignoring it and ultimately having a judgment entered against you. Because once the judgment's entered against you, your defenses are gone. We can't then go and represent you and defend it.
All right, folks. And again, the number at the law firm is 855-LAW-2020. There are offices in Winter Park, Claremont, Lakeland, and the Villages. So what's been on your desk this week?
Oh, we've been really busy with a lot. Family law stays busy, and Brian Monk does a great job handling those issues. I've seen a lot more business transactions this week. We're seeing a lot of different businesses sell. The economy seems to be doing well, so people are now selling their businesses. They built them back up. Estate planning continues to be really busy. People are still in their vacation season, and people will procrastinate, wait forever, and then time to go on vacation, they think about getting their wills done. And so now I'm starting to see a lot of that. We're starting to see slowly, some of my snowbirds are coming back earlier.
Really?
And so, I tell them, now they'll start coming back. Usually we've got 2 or 3 months, but I see people are spending more time here in Florida, and they're wanting to come and get their documents, brought down from up north or from the Midwest and make them subject to Florida law. So I'm really seeing a lot of that lately.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the things what are those documents they really need?
Well, everyone usually comes in, and one of the things, Robin, this is going to be a little bit of a pitch right here, is, we handle a lot of real estate closings. And, that's one of our major practice areas. And what I've started doing is for anyone who does come into town, who does a real estate closing with BCN, we give $100 off updating your estate planning to make it subject to Florida law. I'm like, it's our way of helping the newcomer, saying, welcome to town. Let us help you get all of your documents in place. Let us get things up to date. So what we usually do is I look at the client's estate planning documents, and in a lot of states, that's simply your will, power of attorney, healthcare power, and living will. Florida's a big trust state. So when you're here in Florida, you hear trust planning a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of states aren't trust planning state. They don't use trust as often because probate is not an issue like it is here in Florida. So, and what I usually do is look and see if we can just amend the will, make it subject to Florida law, see if there's any additional changes. And if they need to do a trust, we'll have a nice little conversation with them, see if it's going to be beneficial. And if it is beneficial, we'll create a trust and prepare that.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about Melissa, who we do a lot of radio with, and I was thinking, she has a child. So I think a lot of grandparents are looking at estate and business planning and looking at their all of their legacy planning. They need to update that when there's a new grandbaby in the house.
All the time. Most of my clients, when I talk to my clients, I tell them, you probably won't need to see me for a few years. But I said, mark it on your calendar. In 2 years, come back in and let's talk about things. And, life changes. There may be new grandkids. There may be new financial situations that arise, good or bad, that we may need to address. And so I have them come in, just like you go to your doctor annually or every couple of years to do a medical checkup. Come in and sit down with me and let me do your financial checkup. Let's look at your financials. Let's review your financial planner. Let's look and see how your CPA is doing, if they're saving you money. Let's look at your estate planning documents. Let's make sure the team's in place so that we can do a good job for you.
And you probably often find, because this has been coming up more and more in some of the financial shows I'm doing, and you guys are associated with many of those shows, and doggone it, people don't change their beneficiaries.
I see that all the time. We just had an estate that we're working on, and younger individual, and I say younger, in their 40s, passed away with about $2 million worth of life insurance because he wanted to provide for his family.
Sure.
And he had gotten a divorce, so everything in his estate planning documents were going to his kids. Because the default provisions under the contract, the life insurance contract, provided that the assets go to the estate, now we had to probate a $2 million life insurance policy. So, that just means time that he's going to have to spend going through the administration process and money. And so something very simple, changing a beneficiary that would have taken 15 or 20 minutes worth of time, more headache than anything else, turned into a $20,000 or $30,000 exercise.
Mm-hmm. And we've had the conversation, you and I, of somebody that comes in and they're going over some documents with their new wife of a couple of years or new husband. And, let's just go through some of your documents. Who's Shirley? Oh, well, she was my last wife. Well, why is she still the beneficiary on your documents?
And I get that. And I get the questions, with new wives or new husbands. And a lot of times they'll come in usually right before getting married, and sit down with me, and they'll start talking because they're getting ready for that big day and wanting to make sure their financial planning documents are in place. And it is amazing to me how most spouses do not understand the rights they have under Florida law. When Florida has a lot of protection for spouses and minor children. And, for spouses, the moment you get married, you have a life estate interest in the homestead. And a lot of people don't understand that. Or elective share rights, which means if you're disinherited, let's say the husband says, I'm going to leave everything to my kids from my first marriage. The new wife has a right to come in and file an elective share claim against assets. And so you can't completely disinherit her unless you have a prenup or a postnup. So there's things that you can do. It's just good to be educated. It's good to come and sit down before you get married or right after you get married and say, what are my rights? What rights do I now have as a spouse? And what can we do? If my intention is to take care of my new spouse, let's make sure things are in place to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you see it a lot in your new office in the Villages, and of course in other offices too. But you'll see the thing where, the dad is married wife number 2, and he's going to leave the house to the kids, and the kids know that. And right after the funeral, the kids will come down and say to the current missus, "Hey, you're out. You got to go. We own the house." And she'll turn around and say,
they can't kick her out if
That's
it's
right.
a homestead. And and I see a lot in the Villages. I'll tell you, that is an amazing place. And if you want to see it all, go to the Villages.
Mm-hmm.
You will see a little bit of everything. And I'm really amazed at, there's a lot of second marriages out there.
Yeah, tons of
and a lot of the clients I work with are in a second marriage, sometimes third marriages, blended families. And while everything appears to be great at the Thanksgiving dinner table, when one of the spouses passes away, sometimes it's not so good.
Yeah.
Kids forget that, dad loved that lady or the lady loved dad. And, they start fighting over things that they shouldn't fight over, but that are real. Like, can mom or can dad continue living in the house? Can they continue using the property, the personal property? What rights? I've seen things, that are just all the keepsakes, all the furniture the kids are fighting over, cash in banks. It gets ugly. And those are things that are so simple to address.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Just put the documents together. See an attorney. I've always said on this show, and you kind of always hatched this idea when I first met you, have a good relationship with an attorney before you need them.
That's right.
You've got a relationship with them, so that way when something does pop up, call my attorney.
The nature of the legal profession now, it's gotten to be so competitive. They're just turning out tons of law students every year. If it's very easy to find law firms, our law firm being one of them, that offer free consultations. Almost all law firms offer free consultations. Go in and sit down and talk to them. Take advantage of that. I tell clients, I'd love for you to come sit down and speak with me for 20 or 30 minutes, and let's talk about issues that may arise. You can't go to your doctor and get a 30-minute free consultation.
No, it
you
doesn't
can't.
happen.
You can't go to your dentist and get a free 30-minute consultation. Go to your lawyer, sit down with them, pick their brain, and figure out what they can do to make your life easier and make sure things are right. If you're looking at a real estate contract, take it into an attorney and have them look at it. If you're getting married, look at your rights. If your kids are having financial issues, go sit down, have someone discuss those things with you.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Too many people live that life, and they say, "Well, I never had anybody review this real estate contract. It's a real estate contract." Right. Well, yeah, but there can be some hidden things in there, right?
And you were asking what came up this week in 2 or 3 situations over the last couple of weeks. What I'm seeing more and more are people are selling houses, and the seller wants to continue living in the house for a month or 2. Or there's just certain stipulations post-closing, and they don't, Realtor X, good or bad, they don't put leases together, or they don't do certain things, and it never works out. I've got a situation right now where the seller took some of the appliances out of the house. The contract wasn't clear.
Oh, boy.
And it's now been a year later, and the buyer saying, "I want those appliances or I want the money back." And they're going, they're suing. And now, I'm seeing that a lot. I'm seeing tenants that a seller sells their house, planning on moving into their new construction home, and construction doesn't go as planned. So now it's a month or 2 delayed. So the seller has nowhere to go, and they just stay in the house that they just sold. Well, buyer has already had their moving truck set up, and now you're in a mess. And if it was laid out and things were planned right, we wouldn't have those issues. But, yeah, we see those kind of things happen a lot.
All right, we're going to take a break. You can join the conversation, and you can do so without using your real name. But we have a toll-free line. I've got 7 open lines right now, and you can talk directly to Wade Boyette, 855-297-9696, 855-297-9696, or text us at 21232, 21232. Here's 3 big things you need to know. You're listening to Law 2020, and we have 3 minutes to go before news, traffic, and weather on News 96.5. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, beginning at 5 o'clock, it's Orlando's only all-news morning show with Joe Kelly and company. Let's get to the phones right now. Don in Vero Beach. Don, how can we help you?
Yes, boy, do I need help. I'm one of 9 children, and one of my younger brothers has passed away, so now there's eight of us. And about 15 years ago, during a terrible divorce that was going on between myself and my ex-wife, I was partially raising the children by myself and going through years of surgeries to straighten out my arms. And I'm a disabled veteran. Anyway, the rest of my family, my 2 of my sisters were sending me off every so often gifts in the amount of cash or checks to kind of help out, while I was going through this terrible time. And the rest of the family, who have they've never really got along with me because I'm like a middle child, or whatever you want to call it. I'm the third one down in amongst them. And anyway, the word got back to me through my oldest sister, who is extremely well off, that be prepared, because she said the rest of the family plans on trying to disinherit you, and they're trying to say that you owe a huge loan debt to the other 2 sisters who sent you gifts during that period of time. So that's been blown way out of proportion. There never was any loans nor anything signed.
Okay.
And I do have one card that I saved with the postmark and everything on it that says, "Dear John, they're sending me off like $20 or whatever it was. This is not a loan; it's a gift." That I do have, but that's the only proof of evidence that I have that there never was and never is any loan.
Yeah, Don, it sounds like a couple of things. One, if you did not sign a promissory note, then you're not going to have to repay that money. So I mean, it would be that's the easy issue. Now, the other issue is, can they disinherit you? They have the legal right to do that, but that's going to be more of a family issue between siblings. And unfortunately, if you have 9 children, 8 still alive, for all 8 to get along would be surprising. I haven't had, families with that, there's going to be disagreements, but at the end of the day, y'all are family, and hopefully things get worked out, and, things will, not be as, bad as you think they are.
Yeah. Well, according to discussions, my oldest sister, who is extremely well off, with the rest of them, they are adamant about the fact that they want to disinherit me. They won't even talk to me, the rest of the family, for years. So it's just no communication. My parents and my brother-in-law, General Kavanaugh, they were all killed in an automobile accident back in '84, and ever since then, of course, there's been no communication. The rest of them all fought over my parents' estate. It was just terrible.
Right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, that sounds like you've had some rough things to deal with in life, but, hopefully it works out. What I would try to do is y'all just go try to spend some Thanksgiving, Christmases together and try to work on that relationship.
Okay, Don, thank you so much. Ever have a follow-up? You want to get over to see the attorneys? BCN Law Firm has offices in Winter Park, Claremont, Lakeland, and a brand new office in the Villages, not behind a gate. 855-529-2020. Know your attorneys, know your options. 855-LAW-2020. Diana, we'll be back with your call coming up. Know your attorneys, know your options. 855-LAW-2020. This is Law 2020, brought to you by your friends, the legal associates at the BCN Law Firm. That is bcnlawfirm.com. Hey, how would you like to watch this show? Yeah, they bring in cameras during the thing, and you can watch this on the YouTube channel called BCN Law Channel. BCN Law Channel. And offices in Winter Park, Claremont, Lakeland, and in the Villages. Let's go back to Diana on the phone right now. Diana, we thank you so much for holding, and go ahead.
Hello. My dad has a revocable trust that was written up and in Arkansas, and unknown to me, he developed dementia a few years ago, and he started getting behind on his bills. And his financial planner told him that he could go ahead and start paying his bills for him if he just signed the trust over to him. And with Dad having dementia and also being an alcoholic, he went ahead and signed over his trust over to him. Once I received a call from my dad last year that he needed help, and I went up there to see what was going on and saw what bad shape he was in. I talked to his elder attorney who had written up his portfolio to get a power of attorney, and she was hooked up with the financial planner. They were tight friends. And she said, no, your dad's not competent to revoke his trust. So he had turned over his trust just 4 months prior to my going up there. So I really think this is a case of taking advantage of an elder by the financial planner. And is there any way that I can help my father to revoke his trust? Because his estate's been written up that I will not inherit anything from him when he dies, unless I want a college education, I'm destitute, or if Medicare does not pay into my medical bills.
Okay.
Otherwise, the bank keeps all the money.
So you haven't been disinherited. There's been limitations. Let's address a couple of the issues. Let's talk about the financial planner becoming the trustee, taking over the trust. If your dad had dementia, what we would have to look at is the trust agreement to see who the successor trustees were at the time that happened. If the financial planner was the successor trustee, there may be a provision in the trust that says if he is incompetent, if he's not able to manage his affairs, that he would be removed as trustee and a successor trustee, that being the financial planner, steps in. If that's not the case and he had dementia and the financial planner had him removed and the trust changed to place himself as the trustee, then yeah, there's something we can look there at having him removed, because if your dad did not have the mental capacity to change that document, then we can undo that transaction. So we can definitely sit down and talk there. I may be able to help you. We just need to look at the situation as it existed at the time that the financial planner took over.
Okay.
Also, you are a beneficiary. Your dad just put certain stipulations on it. And unfortunately, because he has dementia, he can't change those stipulations now. Whatever that trust says, it tells me, if I were you, I'd find a good college to go to. I mean, if it,
I'm 63 years old. I've already had my college.
Hey, nothing wrong with going back and living a little college life.
Get your master's.
But if you need any questions, I'll be glad to help you. We can definitely look. As a beneficiary of that trust, you have certain rights. You are entitled, as a beneficiary, we may be able to request an accounting. We may be able to see, what kind of job is that financial planner doing? Is he looking after your and your dad's best interest? Because as a beneficiary, he has to also look after your best interest. So I'd be glad to sit down with you.
Okay.
So,
Okay, Diana, you might want to write this number down. It is 855-LAW-2020. That's 855-529-2020. Or there is an alternate number, 352-394-2103. That's 352-394-2103. And BCN stands for Boyette, Cummins, and Nalos. All right? Now, let's see. We do have a text, and Chris, you do the honors.
Yep, we do. We have a text that came in a little while ago asking about Florida will law. Somebody has not been living with their spouse for over 25 years, but they're still legally married to the assets. So what is the law on that?
Okay, well, they're legally married. They just haven't been living together. Unfortunately, being legally married, you're just, you're getting the bad, none of the good. I mean, yeah, if you're legally married and you haven't been living together for 20 years, they still have all the benefits of the spouse. And I see that a lot now. I'm not sure if you're in a current relationship, but I have situations, and I see this quite often up in the villages where people decide not to get married. They just decide to cohabitate or share their life or be partners through life. And unfortunately, some of them are still married. And, now if that person dies, what I've seen in many situations is the spouse that's not been around for 20 years doesn't resurface, but they have a legal right to resurface. So you know what? If I were you, I would go through the exercise of getting the divorce unless there was some reason that's keeping you married.
Okay, well, they've dropped off the line. Let me do a follow-up to that. I have an acquaintance, matter of fact, in the Villages, who has not lived with her husband. He's in a foreign country and can't be found. And she's tried to track him down. So what is their status?
That's tough. Well, if you're married, you're married. The fact that he takes off and he's having an extended vacation doesn't make you less married.
Can she divorce him in absentia, I guess?
He could. You'd come in and talk to Brian, and there are ways of serving someone through publication or whatever. That doesn't mean that you would have to stay married and a prisoner to someone.
There you go. All right, if you have a question for Wade Boyette, give us a call right now at 855-297-9696, 855-297-9696. Text us at 21232, And believe it or not, there are still people who go to see you now, Wade, to go through bankruptcy because they still haven't recovered from the big fall.
You know, it's amazing. You know, people come in and they hear me on the radio show, and I do presentations quite often, and they say, Wade, what do you do? You know, we see you on TV commercials advertising personal injury or advertising family law. And, you know, I'm the transactional guy in the office. I'm the one that will help you with your estate planning, your business needs, your bankruptcy, your foreclosure defense. My job is to help you either make money, save money, or keep the money that you have. And so if you have any of those issues, I'd love to sit down with you personally. If you have other issues, whether you're going through a divorce or your marriage is great and you just have some family issues, come in, sit down. We've got a great family law department. If you're in an automobile accident, slip and fall, you have disability issues, come and sit down with someone in our personal injury department. We've been very fortunate of creating a team of attorneys that have different specialties, you know, that are very good at what they do. And so we would love to put you with one of our teams to help you out.
I tell you what, it's just amazing. And I've seen how you handle a business transaction and go very seamlessly. I mean, a business that I'm familiar with that you helped out with the sale, it was so seamless that if it hadn't have been put in the paper, nobody would have known it.
Yeah, it's nice, you know, and I luckily most of the business owners that I do work with, that's just one stage and one piece of work. You know, then I become their family attorney. And usually if I'm their business attorney, we work together closely, hopefully to grow their business to make them more successful. My job is to have successful clients. You know, successful clients usually have more legal issues than the clients that aren't very successful, or at least they have money to pay my bill. So, you know, my job is to help those clients become successful, and that's what we do. We walk them through whether it's making business decisions, legal decisions. I can help them surround themselves with professionals that can get them, you know, their accounting needs, financial needs. You know, we're sort of the quarterback that's going to keep it all together.
All right, Kim and Mount Dora, we have about 4 minutes we can spend with you. Go ahead.
Just a quick follow-up on that previous question about the marriage thing. There's a situation where a relative may not be divorced. They may be like legally separated, but this has been like a 30-year thing. And what happens when they're elderly, and if that's the case, but they've been living like they're single, and it might hurt the one who's been living like they're single all of a sudden to be married, if that makes sense. What can they do?
Yeah, Kim, unfortunately, they're not all of a sudden married. They've been married for 30 years. And so, yeah, they're still married. I know divorce, and it still has a stigma, but it doesn't have the stigma that it used to have. And, you know, and I deal with the elderly all the time. Most of my clients are 70 or over when it comes to estate planning up in the villages. I should say that. Now they're getting a lot younger because people are retiring at a lot younger. But, you know, we deal with those situations. What I would do is have them come in. Let's sit down and let's see if we can't walk them through a very peaceful divorce and get things wrapped up, if they're both willing to do that.
If they thought they were already divorced, or they had, you know, like a legal separation that's not recognized now.
Right.
But it would harm the one, because all of a sudden if they're married to this person, it would create assets that they didn't have access to, or they didn't have, or they didn't claim.
Correct. Do they have
for benefit?
After 30 years, do they communicate still, or do they still?
Obviously not.
Okay.
Obviously not.
Yeah, I was going to say they probably don't have any. They probably don't even know what each other's lives are like.
Not much.
You know, there are things that we can do to protect the person with assets, protect their assets, even if they are still married. If you could sit down, we could do certain types of estate planning that we could protect those assets.
Thank you, Barry. It'll be hard to get him to talk about it.
You know
Thank
what?
you very much.
I have a way to get them opening up. You know, one thing is, you know, we're not the lawyers that you're going to sit down, sit across from, and we're not there to intimidate or make people feel uncomfortable. We sit down like we're at your kitchen table and you know, just have a conversation and see what we can do to help.
Thank you. Good show.
Thank you, Kim. You want to follow up on that 855-LAW-2020, 855-529-2020. We'll take a time out for the three big things you need to know on News 96.5. We are back. Yes, indeed. This is Law 2020. The BCN law firm, Wade Boyette, is here, and we do have callers on the line, so let's get right to it. This is Robert in Orlando. Robert, how can we help you?
Hi, thank you so much for taking my call. Approximately 4 years ago, my wife and I entered into a contract and invested money in a proposed deal that failed to be successful. The contract was for 3 years. It had an arbitration clause, which we never triggered, but instead, in good faith, gave the other party more time to try to complete the deal, so that continues on. That has never happened. The deal didn't go through. Now we're faced with the original proposal leading to the company dissolving itself and restructuring and adding us investors, if there's any benefit to belong to the new company, or the party declaring bankruptcy. We're just warning if the latter occurs, bankruptcy, do we have any recourse since we agreed in the contract to arbitration rather than face a court action? Because in each case, our investment is very vulnerable because indeed there's a proper solution for the level of the investment.
Right. So I guess your question is, what rights do you have if that gentleman files bankruptcy?
Sure.
And it depends on, you know, what chapter of bankruptcy they would qualify and file. You know, unfortunately, you would have a right as a creditor. You could step in, and if there are any assets that this gentleman or person has, you would have a right as any other creditor to those assets. Now, if you had a secured loan, then you would have priority. But if you're just an unsecured creditor, then you would be in the same pool as all the other unsecured creditors. And, you know, just hope he doesn't file a bankruptcy. Or if he hasn't filed yet, you may want to look at trying to file some type of action, get a judgment against him, where at least you will become a secured creditor.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert.
All right, let's go to Winter Garden and Robbie. Robbie, how can we help you?
For taking the call. I appreciate your advice you're giving the listeners. My question for you is really not a family law question, but it has to do with a situation that happened to me yesterday. I'm fortunate that it didn't get to a legal level, but I was in one of the local home improvement centers, and I was taking a large item out of my cart and trying to put in the hatchback of my vehicle, and in the process of doing so, my cart rolled away. There was a slight grade in the parking lot, and not being aware that it rolled away, I guess the owner of the van that it hit had come out of the store and saw this happening and was giving me a difficult time. I looked, I didn't see it hit the van, but obviously it rolled away and left a scuff mark on the fender well. It was a black molding. My question for you, Mr. Boyette, is what would my responsibility, if any, to cover the damages, and what's the legal course in a situation like this?
You know, here's what would end up happening, Robbie, is one, you know, they're going to try to hold you at fault, saying it's your responsibility to secure the cart. And what it would ultimately come down to is probably an insurance dispute. They would file probably a claim against your insurance company, your automobile insurance company, and your automobile insurance company would probably deny responsibility, and then they would end up taking care of it. You know, you would obviously say that it's not your responsibility because it was the shopping center, I guess, who had, was it faulty asphalt, or was it just a slight raise? Was it just an elevation issue, or was there something?
It was an elevation issue, yeah. In the parking lot, it had a slight grade, and so the grade caused the cart, without the weight of something in it, just rolled away, and my back was turned away, so I didn't see this happen.
Hey, Robbie, I tell you, that's happened to every one of us. I don't think there's probably a listener out there that hasn't had a runaway cart situation. Unfortunately, it's our responsibility to secure that cart, and make sure it's placed a certain way. The only thing I'm glad is it sounds like there was not any damage or very minimal damage to that person's truck.
Yes.
Sometimes even if there's minimal damage, people can be jerks, and it sounds like you just hit someone who wasn't a very nice person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but I'm just glad nothing happened and you didn't really have to deal with the legal side of things. But next time, do what I do. I try to take the cart and hide it somewhere where it won't roll away.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. Yeah, but we get all kinds of great calls on this show. You all power the show. You know that. And let me give you the information one more time. BCNlawfirm.com. BCNlawfirm.com. You can watch these shows. They're videotaped and edited. You can see them on the YouTube at the BCN Law Channel. BCN Law Channel. You can call the office anytime, 855-LAW-2020. There are associates under the roofs there that deal in every type of law. Very friendly folks. 855-529-2020. 855-529-2020. BCN Law Firm offices again for your convenience. Winter Park, Claremont, Lakeland, and the Villages.